TIE Bomber. This is LEGO Star Wars set 4479. It was released in January 2003 for €40. According to Bricklink, this construction block set consists of 225 pieces. If you want to buy the set nowadays in used condition without box, you have to pay about €40. With box, you have to pay about €70. And if you want to have it even with a sealed box, you will find it for about €150, I think. I got the set more or less since its release. Back then I built the set, I had fun with it for several weeks, and after that I put it back in the box. I didn't even take the time to disassemble it. I only detached the wings, and then everything fitted without any problem inside this box here. But I spent a few minutes this afternoon to probably disassemble the set after 20 or 21 years, so that I can relive now the building experience completely. Let's have a look at the box. I think this is quite a nice design. I really like this old school design. There's so much going on. We got our model itself, and behind it there is this asteroid field. And back then these sets used to have this halo-like thing here. I think it just looks neat. And there's also another thing about this image here. Nowadays we are used to these rendered images, but I think here we really get to see a photography. I'm quite sure that the photo went through some Photoshop jobs or something like that, but it still is a real photo. Here, have a look. We can see injection marks on the stats here. Here's another one. That's quite interesting. Well, on the back side we also get to see some play features of the build, so I think it's quite clear that this is not a UCS set, not a Ultimate Collector's Edition set. The build isn't very eye-pleasing, but I think I remember that it was quite fun to play with it, and as you can see, it got several play features about which we will talk when we have completed the build. Then we get to see an alternative build, which isn't really a thing nowadays. Nowadays all the sets come without alternative builds. Well, back then we didn't have instruction for alternative builds, I think, but at least we always got to see an image of, another build you could assemble with the bricks inside the set. And down here we get to see some ads for other sets. You can see that my box, of course, already opened, and these sets come with these holes here where you punch through your finger and then you are supposed to open this flap here. But I don't know if it's just me, but most of the time this just didn't work. And that's why my box looks so damaged. Okay, then let's see what's inside the box. So first of all, we got this little poster here. It's from a time after episode 1. This is already the time of episode 2. 2003. Because we can see here that Yoda is already the CGI version and not a puppet. And yeah, this little poster is just, yeah, it's just ads. Ooh, all those cool sets. That was cool. Okay, and then we got here the instructions, which are surprisingly thin. Well, 225 pieces isn't too much, so it also shouldn't take too much time to assemble the set. And yeah, of course, this also means that the instructions are supposed to be quite thin. We can see that there are no building sections. There are no numbered bags. Well, I think the pieces, of course, came all in different bags. These are the bags I used now after I have disassembled the set. But back then the pieces came in different bags, but if I remember correctly, those bags came without numbers. And yeah, it wouldn't make any sense to put numbers on them because it's still a set without building sections. Well, we got building sections like this, but we don't really know which bags we have to open. And you can also see that the instructions don't give us these little inventory boxes at each step, which tell us which pieces we have to use for each step. Yeah, it's an old school set. We have to look at each step and compare it with the step before to see which new pieces we have to add. Well, now I'm going to open my two bags here, empty them on the table, and then I will start with step 1. I will come back to you as soon as I see something interesting. Page 3, step 6. The build isn't interesting so far, it looks like this, but I just noticed that, of course, all these pieces here are from a time before LEGO changed the colors in 2004. So we still got here pieces in light gray and dark gray. Those are the old gray colors, not light bluish gray and dark bluish gray. Oh, I haven't used these pieces in quite a while. That's interesting. And another thing which I absolutely love about the set is the quality of the pieces. Nowadays, we really don't have LEGO pieces with so good looking injection holes. Have a look at these injection holes here. They are barely visible. Here is the injection hole. This is just so great. These injection points are hidden so well. I mean, they barely have a different color than the bricks itself. Here it's a bit more visible. This injection point isn't as well done as this one here, but this is just awesome. The injection points are quite small, and the LEGO logo on the stat helps to hide them even more. This is so cool. Nowadays, we can see the injection holes from a meter away, and back then, they really tried to not make them too prominent on the pieces. That's just cool. Well, let's go on with step 7. Page 5, step 10. In this step we are using a building technique which I actually detest. We have to use a rubber band, and normally rubber bands really experience the toll of time, but for some reason in this case the rubber bands which came with this set are still in a perfectly fine condition. You can see here that they work totally fine. This set came with 4 rubber bands, but we only need 1, so these 3 here are spare. And I might not like the technique of using rubber bands in general, but I like how they are here connected to the build. You can see here that we use these 1x1 bricks with bars to which the rubber bands are attached. And these bars here really support the bricks because you can see that they sit on top of these hollow studs, and the bars are interlocked with these hollow studs. They go inside these studs, and because of this, they really support these 1x1 bricks so that we can push or pull here and the bricks won't pop off. By the way, this rubber band holder appeared in 48 sets between 1997 and 2014. I personally have only seen it in 2 sets, in this set and in one other set. Page 6, step 15. In this step we are using a quite complex looking windscreen. The Lego company introduced this piece in 1999 and used it until 2003. It appeared in 6 sets. Actually, it only appeared in 4 sets. The other 2 sets are simply bundles and re-releases of previously released sets. Page 7, step 17. We have completed the cockpit of our bomber, which at the same time holds the bombs, which we simply placed here in the back. We just threw them in there in a previous step. So you can see we do it like this. 1, 2, and 3. So, in the next step, which by the way starts with step 1 again, this is why I also mention the page numbers. In the next step we start to build the second bigger part of the bomber. It's the compartment for the projectile. Page 9, step 7. In this step we have to use a projectile launcher. There are different versions of this piece. This specific piece here was introduced in the year 2000 and it appeared in 29 sets until 2006. I'm quite sure that I already have used a variation of this piece in the 90s. Page 13, step 17. With adding this little segment to the underside of our build, we have completed the central part of our TIE bomber. Now the only thing left to do is building the wings. I'm not quite sure which step building the wings is officially. So you can see that we got all these sub-steps here, and I'm not quite sure if those sub-steps belong to step 17 or step 18. I guess they belong to step 18. To build the wings, we have to do all the sub-steps 2 times because we got 2 wings. And here you can see that in part 18 we added the wings to our build. Let's just say that these are sub-steps of step 18. This means now we have to do page 14, sub-step 1 of step 1 of step 18. And you can see that we have to use this piece here, this, I don't even know how to call this cluster of inverted slopes. Lego introduced this piece in 1999 and they used it until 2016. It appeared in 28 sets. Page 14, step 18, sub-step 5. In this step we use a printed tile. It's a 2x2 tile on which this imperial emblem is printed. It was used between 1999 and 2006 in 9 sets, but these 9 sets also include several reissues. Page 17, step 18. In this step, we have to load our missile launcher with this extremely dangerous missile. But when we have a look at step 16, there we can see that we already have done this. We have connected the missile in step 16 with the launcher. In step 15, the launcher is still empty, but in step 16, it's loaded. So we can't do this again in step 18. Strange. Page 18, step 19. We have completed the build. And I have to say, this Lego model really is not a beauty. Have a look at this. It looks extremely blocky. Nowadays, the shape would have been done completely differently with, way more curves. And also the colors don't look right. The black is way too prominent. They are missing a lot of gray details, and I don't think that we have to talk about the blue. It just doesn't belong here. And the build itself also is quite wobbly. Have a look here at this. I mean, it doesn't fall apart, but we can really move the individual segments which are connected with pins to each other. Or I think those aren't really pins, those are these, how do you call them? These bricks which have these pins connected to them. You know, these pieces which were used to add fans or wheels in early Lego sets, or earlier Lego sets. Let's call it like this. Can I interlock this with just one hand again? No, I don't think so. I'm going to need, a second hand. So let me place the camera here for a second. Oh, come on. All right. Now everything is whole again. Well, but besides the slightly odd shape and the strange colors, I think we get to see at least the most important parts of a TIE bomber. So the wings are, some kind of curved. We can at least, without a doubt, see that those are supposed to be TIE bomber wings. So the shape isn't too off. Then we got here the cockpit, which is quite empty. I will show you this later. Here we got this compartment for the missiles. I think those are supposed to be proton torpedoes. And here in the back we see the engines, and I think this is supposed to be the part from where the bombs are ejected, the proton bombs. Well, what are we going to do first? Let's have a look at the play features. So the first play feature is the missile here. When we pull this little cone here, the missile should be ejected. And it has that much power that it can open these little gates here itself. Bam! Where did it go? Ah, found it. Here it dropped on the floor. And yeah, it's quite easy to reload the whole thing. We simply have to stick it in here. And close the doors again, those little flags. By the way, these flags are also printed. I think I didn't mention this during the building process. This is quite cool. Let's give it another go. Bam! Alright, the second play feature is that we can drop bombs. And in the movie, or at least in the lore, the drums are dropped from here, but we don't do it like this. We drop them from below the cockpit because there the proton bombs are stored in this Lego model. And we do this by pulling back the engine on this side here. Let me just place the camera again so I can show you this. So, when we pull here, these 1 by 1 round bricks drop out of the compartment behind the cockpit. There should be 3. Yeah, here is the third one. Somehow it got stuck in there. So when we have a look at the whole thing like this, you can see when we pull this thing here that here a little gap opens. And this is where or how the bombs get dropped. After we have dropped them, we can simply open this flap here and put them back in there. And now the TIE bomber is ready for the next bombing raid. Okay, what else? Let's have a look at the cockpit, or let's start with the minifigure. Let's get it out. Come on, little feller. So, it's a TIE pilot, and it's nothing too fancy. It got a print on its torso, but only on the front, not on the back, and also on the helmet. It might not be a very special little minifigure, but I think it does the job very well and I like it. But what's a bit strange, but this was normal back then for these kind of minifigures, they come without face. When we remove the helmet, you can see that we got a faceless minifigure head in brown. I think this is also old brown. This should be, or I think back then, reddish brown wasn't a thing, and also dark brown. Well, yeah, then let's have a look inside the cockpit, and there you can see that it's quite a boring cockpit. There isn't really much to see. It's completely empty. The only thing visible is because of... let's just remove this thing here for a minute. The only thing which we can see inside the cockpit is that the wall in the back is translucent, and behind the wall there we can see the stored bombs. Alright, then let's reload the bomber. Place the minifigure back in there. Come on, little fella. And attach the cockpit again. Oh, I think I can't do this with one hand. I need my second hand for this. So let's place the camera again. All right, there we go. Well, this might not be the nicest set to look at, but it's really fun playing with it. And for me personally, I had really much fun assembling the set once again after 20 years or a bit more than 20 years. It's from a time when the Lego or the Star Wars universe, or better said, the Star Wars canon still was intact, when the expanded universe still was intact. Before, yeah, the era of Disney. And I think back then, the Star Wars expanded universe had its heyday. It was so much fun back then, I think. I have read dozens of books and a lot of comics, and it was so cool back then. I was a huge Star Wars fan, and so I really had much fun to relive this whole time period with building the set once again. I don't think that I can recommend this set for people who want to use it as a display set. It's fun for kids to play with it, but I can remember that even back then I found the colors to be quite strange, and the whole build isn't really detailed. Maybe you should go with a MOCS or something. I think there's even a new Lego TIE Bomber after all those years, and this might look better. So it's nothing for display purposes, but nevertheless it's quite fun to play with it. Oh, and by the way, I think that the clutch power decreased over time. I think it isn't as good as it used to be, but I'm not sure about this. But as you can see, everything still perfectly keeps together. And I'm really surprised about the rubber bands. They still work after over 20 years. That's quite impressive. So, all in all, it's not a display set, but it's fun to play with it. And the build was very fast, easy, and it made fun.